Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday, February the 11th, 2026, and the time is 6:31. My name is Michael Paylor, and I am the Chief of Traffic Engineering and the designee at this hearing for the Montgomery County's Department of Transportation, MCDOT. Here with me tonight is Mr. Joseph Mogus, Chief of MCDOT's Division of Transportation Engineering, or DTE, Mr. Robert Gonzalez, Manager of the Sidewalk Program. Also in attendance is Mr. Juan Berrios, who is the Field Supervisor, Mr. Daniel Hagos Camara, Construction Representative, and Ms. Lori Main, Planning Specialist, all with the Sidewalk Program. Mr. Gonzalez will provide information and details regarding the proposed project. Thank you so very much for joining us on this virtual platform. Please bear with us if we encounter any technical difficulties tonight, just like I did a moment ago. Tonight's hearing is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be posted on the Sidewalk Program website by 5 p.m. tomorrow. A link and a QR code to the Sidewalk Program's website will be provided throughout tonight's presentation and is at the top of the chat box on this virtual platform. You may also notice that your video camera is turned off by default this evening. To reduce the bandwidth of the meeting and maximize technical efficiency, we request that you please do not turn your video camera on. Likewise, your microphones will be muted. Once the testimony portion of this hearing begins, those who have signed up to testify will be called on and asked to unmute when it is their turn to speak. Once invited to unmute, you may unmute yourself by clicking the microphone icon at the bottom left of your screen. If you have not signed up in advance to testify but wish to do so, please raise your hand by clicking on the react icon at the bottom of your screen and then click raise hand. If you are joining us via telephone only, you may raise your hand by pressing *9 on your telephone keypad and *6 to unmute yourself once invited to unmute. Please wait until the testimony portion of this hearing to raise your hand. You may raise your hand at any time during the testimony portion. We will call on you to provide your oral testimony and ask you to unmute your microphone when it is your turn to speak. Written testimony and comments may be submitted as well and will be considered with the same weight as oral testimony. If time allows after the testimony portion of this hearing, we will hold a question and answer session. You may also raise your hand to ask a question, or you are welcome to type your question in the chat box, the icon for which is at the bottom of your screen. Tonight's hearing is being held pursuant to Section 4953 of the Montgomery County Code. The purpose of a public hearing is to obtain testimony regarding the potential project to assist in determining if the project is in the best interest of the public and whether the project should be authorized for construction in its entirety or any portion thereof. This forum allows you to provide testimony either in support of or in opposition to the project. Public comments should be focused entirely on the Redwing Road Sidewalk project. All interested persons are entitled to be heard at this hearing. However, the testimony portion of this hearing is not a forum for dialogue, questions and answers, or cross-examination. Please direct your remarks to the specific project that is the subject of this hearing. If comments stray in areas unrelated to this project, I will ask you to refocus your comments on the proposed sidewalk project. Following the conclusion of this public hearing, the record will remain open for 4 weeks to allow any person who is unable to attend this meeting an opportunity to have their written testimony and comments included in the public record for full consideration. The official closing date by which all comments and testimonies must be received is Wednesday, March 11, 2026 at 5 p.m. Submissions may be emailed to Lori Main, whose email address is provided in tonight's presentation, sent via regular mail, or submitted via the online comment form and must be received or postmarked by the close of the hearing record. Please be sure to provide your name and property address on your submission. Written submissions will be considered with the same weight as oral testimony. After the hearing is concluded and the record is officially closed, I, as the hearing officer, will review and weigh all information submitted into the public record and make a recommendation to the director of Montgomery County's DOT, Mr. Chris Conklin, for his final decision as to whether the project has been shown to be in the best public interest and whether to authorize the project as proposed or any portions thereof. And now, to discuss the sidewalk proposal for Redwing Road, I give you Robert Gonzalez.
Good evening, Messrs. Paler, Barrios, Camara, Miss Main, ladies and gentlemen. The subject of this evening's public hearing is to consider a proposal to construct a 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk adjacent to the curb on Redwing Road. For your convenience, we have posted a few displays that aid the visual description of the project. This presentation and the recorded hearing will be posted on the Sidewalk Program website by 5 p.m. tomorrow, February 12th, 2026. Display A, which is on the screen, is an aerial project vicinity map of the proposed sidewalks on the Redwing Road relative to existing sidewalk network. 5 foot wide concrete sidewalks are proposed on the west side of Redwing Road. The proposed sidewalks are shown in red, and the existing sidewalks are shown in yellow. The total length of the proposed installation is approximately 780 linear feet. The new sidewalk will connect existing sidewalks on Stardust Lane, providing enhanced pedestrian safety to and from Maryland 190, which is River Road, and Maryland 614, which is Goldsboro Road, and the public transportation amenities located along each. The new sidewalks would also connect to the Walt Whitman High School, the Kenwood Golf and Country Club, and destinations south of Goldsboro Road. These other destinations include the Wood Acres Elementary School, Wood Acres Local Park and Field, Fourth Presbyterian Church, the Kenwood Station Shopping Center, McDonald's, Starbucks, the Washington Episcopal School, and the Capitol Crescent Trail. Display B1 shows one of the engineered concept of the proposed sidewalks between the existing sidewalks on Redwing Road and Stardust Lane and Redwing Court. A 5-foot sidewalk is planned to connect to existing sidewalks on Redwing Road. The existing 4-foot wide sidewalks will be replaced and widened to 5 feet. ADA compliant ramps will be installed on both sides of Redwing Road. Also, driveway aprons and lead walks within the public right-of-way will be replaced with concrete. Display B2 shows page 2 of the engineered concept, the proposed sidewalk between Maryland 614, which is Goldsboro Road, and Redwing Court. A 5-foot concrete sidewalk is similarly planned with ADA compliant ramps installed at Maryland 614, Goldsboro Road. All driveway aprons and lead walks within the public right-of-way will be replaced with concrete. Display C. Display C provides a typical section of the proposed sidewalk, which will be installed fully within the county's public right-of-way. Montgomery County has 50 feet of public right-of-way on Redwing Road. The road is 26 feet wide, leaving 24 feet of available right-of-way or 12 feet of available public right-of-way on each side of Redwing Road. The public right-of-way is reserved for amenities that benefit the public, such as sidewalks. The sidewalk depicted in the pictures was installed in Rockville in 2024. Justification. MCDOT evaluates requests for pedestrian facilities based on their ability to serve public use and enhance public safety. The main goal of installing sidewalks is to remove pedestrians from the path of vehicular traffic and create a separation between pedestrians and the roadway, vehicles on the roadway. The installation of sidewalks is also a key component of the county's climate action plan, providing infrastructure for pedestrians to walk safely to local destinations and public transportation amenities. The new sidewalks will establish safer access for pedestrians of all ages and people with disabilities. Pedestrians will safely be improved. Pedestrian safety will be improved for the entire community. Slides 12, tree removal and replacement. To make way for the sidewalk installation, the county arborist has prescribed 5 right-of-way tree removals. The potential tree removals are reflected in the engineered concept plan. Please know that the county does not take tree removals lightly. Trees are a majestic ally in the fight against climate change, cleaning our air and harmful emissions, and providing cooling and shade and neighborhood beauty. For every tree removed, the sidewalk program will plant 3 trees in the public right of way. 15 trees will be planted to replace the 5 trees proposed to be removed on Redwing Road. Those who reside adjacent to a right of way tree slated for removal can view the available replacement tree species on the Division of Highway Services tree maintenance website. The QR code and the link to the tree maintenance website are displayed on your screen following the installation. Following the installation, if approved, the county arborist will visit each property adjacent to a right-of-way tree removal to discuss your preferred replacement tree species and the replacement in the right-of-way adjacent to your property. Costs and assessments. The estimated cost for installing the Redwing Road sidewalk is approximately $169,850.40. Estimated costs include construction, inspection, and administrative costs. Funding for this project will be provided under the county's sidewalk program, CIP project number 506747. There are no properties considered to be specially benefited by the proposed improvement. Therefore, no properties are expected to be assessed. As previously discussed, in regard to exhibits, several exhibits are incorporated in the public binder for, this is slide 14, um, public record binder for your information and consideration. One of the exhibits is Office of Management and Budget, Sidewalk Program Minor Projects 506747. Exhibit 2 is the Engineered Concept Plan. Exhibit 3 is Public Right-of-Way Construction Impacts Report. Exhibit 4 is Montgomery County press release circulated via email and published on X, formerly Twitter, Blue Sky, Reddit, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Threads on the January 12th and 27th, 2026. The Washington Times legal advertisement published on January 28th and February 4th, 26, and highlighted in the Go Montgomery newsletter. Exhibit 5 is a written testimony in support of the proposed sidewalks. Exhibit 6 is written testimony in opposition to the proposed sidewalks. Exhibit 7 is list of attendees to be added following this hearing. And Exhibit 8 is the hearing transcript also to be added following the hearing. Project-related data and files can be downloaded from the Sidewalk Program's website. Copies of the public hearing record may be requested via email to lori.main@montgomerycountymd.gov once the hearing record for this project closes on March 11, 26 at 5 p.m. Slide 15. If the proposed sidewalks are approved, MCDOT will utilize a work order contractor currently in place with the Division of Transportation Engineering to install the sidewalks. If approved and authorized for construction, we anticipate installation during this year's construction season, which extends from March 15 to November 30th, weather permitting. If authorized as presented, the construction of the proposed sidewalks is anticipated to take approximately 2 to 4 weeks, weather permitting. As previously stated, here with us this evening is Mr. Joseph Mogus, Chief of the Division of Transportation Engineering, Mr. Juan Barrios, Field Supervisor, and Mr. Daniel Hagos Camara, Construction Representative. They will be available for the testimony portion of this hearing to answer any questions regarding construction aspects of this project. And now I turn the meeting back over to Mr. Paler.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you,
We will
Michael.
now hear testimony from those in attendance who wish to testify. If you have not pre-registered to testify, but decide that you would like to, please click the React icon in the bottom menu bar, then click Raise Hand to raise your hand. Alternatively, if you join the meeting by phone, you may dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. Once you are invited to speak, please unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon at the bottom left of your screen or by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. Please clearly provide your name and address for the record prior to beginning your testimony. In addition, you may submit your full testimony in writing. These submissions will be fully considered along with the oral testimony heard here today. Please reserve all questions for the question and answer session following the testimony portion of this hearing. We will begin now with those who have signed up in advance to testify at this evening's hearing. Again, please be sure to announce your name and property address before providing your testimony.
All right, first up, we have Stuart Plattner. Stuart, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, I'm Stuart Plattner. I live at 6204 Redwing Road. Can you hear me?
I can.
You can,
Yes.
Stuart. Thank you.
Okay. I've lived at this address for 38 years. I've raised 2 children at this address. In all that time, we have never had a safety issue. I am against this sidewalk proposal for the following reasons. The cost seems to me excessive for the accomplishment. What will be accomplished is to be able to walk down to Goldsboro. But Goldsboro is impossible to walk on because of the heavy traffic. So I think a sidewalk should be built on Goldsboro, leading down to Glen Echo Park, and then the feeder streets like Redwing Road can be addressed. But to build a sidewalk on Redwing Road first, all you do is wind up at Goldsboro and you can't walk there. It threatens your life. There's way too much traffic. The second reason I'm against it is that you've chosen the west side of the street, but the bus stop is on the east side of the street. So the people who use the proposed sidewalk will have to cross the street at the intersection of Redwing Road and Goldsboro, which makes no sense. Why don't you build it on the east side of the street where pedestrians will not have to cross the street to access the transportation link? That's about it.
Thank you, Stuart. Okay, next up, we have Brian Robinson. Let's find you here.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you guys very much for having this meeting and for participating in the safety walk, which I think had something to do with this. The I at the outset I would like to. I also asked for a sidewalk on Haviland Drive. I live at 6320 Haviland Drive. I would love to see a sidewalk on my street, but that's not under consideration right now, even though I've asked for it a number of times. So my comments are as follows for this sidewalk on Redwing. Basically, I've seen it from a variety of different perspectives, and the road is unsafe for pedestrians and bikers. My family, including our 5-year-old daughter, walks and bikes frequently in the neighborhood, and we have firsthand experience the dangers of walking and biking. To tell you a story, my daughter was, when she was learning to improve her biking skills this past year, we often rode to Redwing Court, the closest safe spot. But after the sidewalk on Redwing Road ends, we had to bike in the street. Due to limited visibility from parked cars in the hill, we basically needed 2 of us to ensure our safety. One of us was in front and one was behind. We were worried that as a beginner, she could roll right down into traffic on Goldsboro. And we had a couple of close calls with cars that were driving quickly around the bend. A sidewalk here would help keep children separate and safe from traffic. I also bike with my daughter on the back of my cargo bike to and from school and to shops at West Bard. Without a sidewalk, I found it dangerous to continue down Redwing Road from Redwing Court to Goldsboro Road. Cars turning from Goldsboro often don't see cyclists approaching. And even when I'm driving, I drive plenty, I find it difficult to see pedestrians here, especially during rush hour when I also have to focus on oncoming traffic. I've also seen the danger to pedestrians. Along with my 74-year-old father and our daughter, my family often goes for walks in the neighborhood towards Merrimack Park, the entrance on Redwing Court. It's fine on Stardust Lane when from Haviland Drive, we get on Stardust. Stardust is fine. And on the brief sidewalk on Redwing Road, but when the sidewalk disappears in Redwing Road, I'm concerned about visibility when we have to walk on the street. Cars drive quickly down Redwing Road, and I'm concerned that my father may not be able to jump out of the way of a car that comes out of nowhere. Also, school children. I've seen what appears to be middle school-age children biking across the Wedgwood crosswalk on Goldsboro, using the shoulder on Goldsboro, then going up Redwing Road. I was concerned they'd be hit by a car. And what this shows is that the absence of good infrastructure, and we've got a lot of problems with infrastructure here. So not having good infrastructure, such as sidewalks on Redwing Road and Goldsboro Road, won't prevent children from using these roads. We need to prioritize pedestrians, including pedestrian children's safety. I'll also mention during the safety walk, which a number of people participated in, as we were walking down the hill on Redwing Road towards Goldsboro where it lacks a sidewalk, a speeding van came from behind us while we were on Redwing Road and nearly hit members of our group, including Council Member Andrew Friedson. A sidewalk on Redwing Road would have made us much safer. And I should note that the point of the safety walk was to walk along Goldsboro Road. We just ended up walking along Redwing Road and experiencing that. So those are my comments. I fully support this for the safety of pedestrians and children cyclists. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next, we'll hear from Ed Spitzberg.
Great, thank you very much, and thanks for having us all speak. It's great to see so many neighbors here. I submitted written testimony, and I'll try not to repeat it. I'll just embellish it a little bit. Very quickly, my sidewalk neighborhood bona fides. I grew up in Bethesda, so I on a sidewalkless neighborhood, so I'm familiar with how they used to be back in the day. I've lived here in this neighborhood for 17 years, and in that time, I've had an infant child. I've had a child who were walking to school. Now have a teen child. I walk dogs daily, and I used to bike to work both downtown and to downtown Bethesda. And recently, I have some limited mobility issues. So I have a view from a variety of perspectives on the sidewalk, and in all those perspectives, I strongly support the sidewalk. For many reasons that I had my written testimony, so again, I won't repeat them all, but just to highlight a few things that relate to what people may say here. I just want to highlight the changes in my perspective as an old school Bethesda person that grew up in a neighborhood with no sidewalks. The neighborhood that I grew up in had no sidewalks, and in that time, many decades ago, there was the county's population was fewer. And this was a neighborhood that wasn't used as a transit, and so then it did feel different. And I think people saying that things felt different a long time ago were right, that it probably was different, but that's not the case now. Now the county's population is much bigger. Now there's Google Maps and Waze that anytime there's any type of traffic on either Goldsboro River, our neighborhood is used as a cut through. And I've watched I'm at the corner of, I should say, I'm at 6310 Redwing Road, which is the corner of Redwing and Stardust. And literally anytime that there is any traffic on either, there's speeding traffic that goes down Stardust or Redwing to Stardust, depending on the direction of the traffic. And the West Bard Shopping Center has opened, has changed now. So the destination that's on the that one could walk to is very different than it was long ago. I should also say, by the way, it's part of my uh, uh, sidewalk bona fides is I used to lead our annual walk to school day for Woodacres for our neighborhood, which was always nail biting. And during the COVID, during COVID, when students started to go back to school, I used to walk my daughter daily to Woodacres, and the hardest part, besides of course Goldsboro, was walking down Redwing Road. So I do think that there are, I know we're not talking about Goldsboro now. I do think there are plans to improve that. So a sidewalk that from Red Wing to Goldsboro would help my now teen child walk to West Bard and would have helped my young daughter walk herself to Woodacres. I will also say that I know that we there may be a good safety record in terms of non-terrible accidents, but I will say just in my limited time or my limited view, I have seen quite a few near misses. Brian mentioned one on that safety walk. Certainly in those times I've walked, I've seen many speeding, as I said, speeding cars and near misses. There was a car into one of our neighbors' gardens just a couple years ago. The tree lawn, the county property. There was a car that went to the corner of Stardust and Red Wing. There was another accident that took down an entire street sign at Stardust and the service road. So there's quite a few that we're just lucky that speeding cars haven't taken people. So I've said more in my written testimony. I won't repeat that, but thank you very much for the time. I strongly support the sidewalk. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Next, we'll hear from Nisham Spitzberg.
Hi. Ironically, I live with Ed Spitzberg, 6310 Red Wing. I just would like to echo one point that the neighborhood has changed over the years, and the neighborhood as it looked 20 years ago or 30 years ago is very different than our situation now. I personally have been in situations where I can't walk down to get into my car even on Red Wing because without the sidewalk, I am walking in the street because we happen to have a neighborhood which is predominantly houses with carports or don't even have a driveway. So we have a lot of cars parked on both sides of the street on Red Wing, meaning that if there's not a sidewalk, a person is forced to walk down the middle of the street with cars on either side of them. This has been scary for me. I've come in a couple of situations where it's actually been a car coming at me because they were going too fast. As is noted, we are a cut-through shortcut from River Road back up. And things are different now. There's a much higher volume of cars owned per household. We don't have garages. We park a lot of cars on the street. And if there's not a sidewalk, that forces us to be walking in the middle of the street. So from my personal experience as an adult, as a mother of a child who's grown up here now for 15 years, I've seen a lot of things escalate and get scarier as the years have gone by. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisham. Next, we will hear from Michelle Fistella.
Hi, this is Teresa Fischella. I live
Hi.
on Red Wing Road, and we're one of the houses that would be impacted by the construction. And yeah,
I'm sorry, Teresa. I'm sorry. What's your address, hon?
Oh, sorry, 6308
Great, thank you.
Red Wing Road. Yeah. So well, thank you very much for the process and the ability for people to express their concerns and interest. We have a lot of concerns. But before I say anything, I will say up front that I will be posting photographs and video as part of our testimony that show people with their children and strollers, their dogs, walking in the middle of the road without any concern, even places where there's sidewalk and they could access the sidewalk. They're just walking in the middle of the street because this neighborhood is safe. It's been safe. We've been here for more than 25 years. And as Stu spoke earlier, he's been here for like 35 years. So there's no documented evidence. In fact, the evidence I see is that it's a safe neighborhood. So that's my main point. But I want to go through a little bit. So one is that the sidewalk program in Montgomery County states that to be fair and equitable, there's a prioritization in the installation of sidewalks request. And it's data-driven priority rating. It's based on safety, trip generators, and equity. And so we find that the Redwing Road proposal does not meet this criteria. The county investment is an unnecessary sidewalk that would be a misuse of precious county funds. Our main issue is that the use of these public funds would reduce our neighborhood safety and cause environmental damages. And while these costs are clear, we cannot find evidence, documented evidence, not perceptions, but actually documented evidence that would infer benefit to the neighborhood from this investment. And we're not an equity-focused area. So in fact, we're one of the wealthiest parts of the county. So one thing about the safety is we find, and we have evidence that pedestrians in the neighborhood are sufficiently comfortable to walk in the middle of the Stardust Lane and Redwing, even though the sidewalks on both sides of the side even where there are sidewalks present. There's been no, since we've been here 25 years, there's been no documented incident reporting to the police or any other county official of a pedestrian injury on the road that we are aware of. And so based on these facts, we just firmly believe that the sidewalk is a gross misuse of our funds, our taxpaying funds, and is not consistent with the county policy. So some of the other points I want to make is that, as far as I know, there's never been a complaint to the police that vehicles speed in the neighborhood, nor has there been any traffic violation issued within the neighborhood. The number of houses and plots of land have not changed since it was built in the 1950s. In fact, family size across the US has fallen, not increased. There was no need for a sidewalk then, and there's no documented reason for a sidewalk now. The neighborhood has limited access, so there's not a lot of through traffic coming back and forth into the neighborhood. In terms of children's safety, the children's elementary school bus is at the corner of Haviland and Stardust. All the children living on Haviland don't have a safe sidewalk way to get to the school bus. A good section of Stardust does, and some section of Redwing does. So if there's really an issue of children's safety, it should be focused around the children's access to the school bus stop, coming back and forth from home. So we don't understand why there's an emphasis on Redwing Road and not on Haviland. It just doesn't do anything. In fact, adding a sidewalk around on Haviland would be a little bit better than having it on the west side of Redwing. Having on the east side of Redwing, maybe, because then there's a continuous sidewalk all the way to the corner of Haviland and Stardust. So we really don't see this issue at all about safety, and particularly we think there's a priority towards children. It should be access that enhances access to the school bus stop. Then there's a problem with environmental issues. So it's not just that you're cutting down trees, but there's already a problem of flooding and erosion and runoff at the intersection of Redwing and Goldsboro. So adding a hardscape is just going to make that a lot worse. It creates a hazard for residents to enter the neighborhood by private vehicle and on foot. So just having more runoff is just going to make the problem just a lot worse. And then the number of trees are going to have to be cut down is really unpleasant. And it seems that on the other side, there would be less trees that would be cut down. And then installing, we think that actually is going to increase the chance of pedestrian injury if you have the sidewalk installed on the west side, because to get to the bus stop, you have to cross over at the intersection of Goldsboro, which is very, very dangerous. So it just doesn't make any sense. It's not clear to us. The county hasn't told us what's wrong with what's the problem with putting the sidewalk on the other side, on the east side of the road. And if there's a problem with easement, somebody has violated the easement, like by installing fences or walls or whatever, that's a problem that the private property owner should be compliant with, not as an excuse to not put the sidewalk on the side of the road if you're going to have a sidewalk, which we don't think you should. But if you're going to have one, there's really no sense to have it on the east side. So I just can't stress enough that you put a sidewalk where you're putting, we've been here for more than 25 years. You're just causing safety problem. I can tell you that it increases the risk of childhood or adult accident with cars than not having it now. So we're really concerned about this. We have a strong opposition to it. We will listen to everything that comes here today, and we appreciate listening to everyone's views. And we'll probably write something more specific within the next couple of weeks to kind of consolidate and provide further evidence of our position. But this cost, I don't see any like cost benefit. I see all the cost and risks to safety, and I don't see the benefits given the situation that the location of our neighborhood. And I really strongly ask the county to make sure they're not spending money just because somebody asked for it, but actually because that is a priority for the county, for everyone's safety in the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Miss May,
Yes.
do you have an approximate count of the number of people who have signed up to speak? The last two individuals ran pretty long, and I want to make sure that we have a reasonable time frame.
Yeah, we only have one other person, but that
great.
person
Okay.
is not in attendance, so we're moving to hands now.
Sounds good.
So first, we'll hear from Anindya Bose Shrivastava.
Thank you. This is Animesh Srivastava. Anindya and I, we live in the property 6208 Redwing Road, and Anindya had been kind to register while I was traveling, but I'm speaking on behalf of both of us. So I would like to submit that, first of all, thank you, appreciate this opportunity. I'd like to submit that we have also been resident in this property for over 20 years. And like some of the neighbors on this side of the road have mentioned, we have raised two children. One was born here and is now a senior at Walt Whitman. We've raised two children. We've lived in this area. From my room in the ground floor where I look out on the street, I see everyday street users, dog walkers, people jogging up and down. And we haven't had any issue, any sense of threat, any risk, any reported risk to the users in this area. So I'm a bit puzzled similarly as to what is the urgency and the cost-benefit ratio of using public resources like this. I'm further puzzled when the justification for the sidewalk that's offered in general terms is that it make it into a network of connected sidewalks to get to places. And we have had mention of West Bard, Capitol Crescent Trail, etc., or even the Woodacres School. But the glaring fact is that there is no sidewalk on Goldsboro Road. When I even attempt to cross it, it remains a very dangerous road to cross. And when we asked for details, when we had a consultation with some council officials who were kind enough to visit, as far as we can make out, there's nothing even in the planning stage with regard to sidewalks on Goldsboro. So it would seem to me that this 780 linear foot of sidewalk is not actually connecting with anything meaningful in terms of expanding the access, pedestrian access to other parts of the locality. And it seems to me to be putting the cart before the horse to do this linear stretch before we have other stretches developed, specifically Goldsboro Road. And just making a sidewalk that gets children, dogs, and others more easily to the edge of Goldsboro could actually be precipitating some more risky situations. We have also observed, and it is common observance, Stardust has sidewalks, but we often find people, children using the road. It is that kind of neighborhood. That's what my neighbor was just earlier suggesting, that we have lived here for 20 plus years. There is a very people are comfortable using the road and or the sidewalk. And as I say, so many times as we drive along or walk along Stardust, there are people on the street, even though there are sidewalks on that road as well. So before we go ahead with this, we need a genuine assessment of what is the actual objective level of risk, evidenced as was suggested, whether there have been reports, whether there have been complaints, whether there have been accident records. It seems to me that the houses that are going to use this 780-foot linear are mainly the houses along it. And again, there, the neighborhood has changed. But as I seem to think from my time, when our child would go to elementary school or middle school, there were more children in the neighborhood than now, and so on. So the situation has changed in the way that I don't think the risk has increased. I certainly don't see it in the evidence of the pedestrian and or foot traffic that I see from my room, ground floor room every day. We don't feel the threat. And as I said, again, repeat, does not seem to connect to any network. Further, and finally, it is not non-trivial. The trees that would come down, these are mature trees that spoil the neighborhood, 5 in all. We don't understand why it won't be on the east side, which is much more logical. Connect straight to the bus stop, maybe pulls down fewer trees. But in any case, I don't think we should be going there. We have acknowledged the role of trees in climate change, beauty, and so on, and it does not seem to justify the cost, fiscal, environmental, and other. So we remain a bit puzzled by the priority being given to this sidewalk, and certainly would not wish to see it. Would definitely not stand in opposition to this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Kathleen McBride.
Hi, I'm Kathleen McBride, and I live at 6307 Redwing Road. And thank you, everyone, for coming on the meeting, and thank you for everyone's opinions. And also, I'd like to say I'm very happy that the people who have lived here for 20 plus years and have children who are grown and out of the house, I'm very happy that they had no incidents. But many of you will notice that cars have gotten quite a lot bigger in the past 20 years. They drive quite a lot faster. And sometimes if they're electric, you can't hear them if they're coming up behind you. And then I'll also speak to the point, I have 3 children who live here, and the kids who went to Woodacres and now go to Pyle and Whitman, they use our neighborhood as a cut through because they can cross River Road at the traffic light there, and then they cut around through our neighborhood, and then they do use the sidewalk across Goldberg. Like, we're not all super happy about that, but they do it all the time. And then the kids, like my kids, take the bus at the bottom of Red Wing and Goldsboro, and walking down that way, I always tell them to walk on everybody's yards, and that's kind of tricky sometimes when there's snow, but because of the parked cars, it is very dangerous. We also have other older neighbors who would like to take the bus, but they're nervous about walking on, like, you notice Red Wing kind of curves, and with all of the parked cars, it is very hard to see, and it's hard sometimes to hear. And so I'm glad that there have been no incidents, but I don't think that we need to wait until there is an incident. Also, the bus for the middle schoolers, those of you who don't have middle schoolers might not know that the bus is at the corner of Redwing and Stardust. And a lot of the kids live down at the bottom of Redwing, or if they live on the court, that means they have to walk up to the bus stop. And sometimes it's dark in the morning. And so they have to walk in the street in the dark. And so it would be much safer for those kids walking to their bus stop to have a sidewalk to get to the bus stop. And also, I think we can all agree nobody wants to cut down trees. I'm sure we could figure out a way to go around them, whatever. And a lot of the kids also, they go across to the new areas at Westbard. And so kids are using this neighborhood a lot, but other people have noted that this is also a cut through and cars come through very, very quickly. And so again, I'm happy that there have been no incidents, but I don't think we need to wait for one. And also someone had mentioned speed cameras. There actually has been a speed camera and there was a police study done on Haviland a couple of years back. And if anyone wants information, I can give you the name of the person who requested it. And that's how we ended up getting some stop signs there. And I believe that was part of how the speeds were lowered on Goldsboro River. But I think this would be excellent. I think it would be much safer for the kids. And I really appreciate everyone participating in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Okay, that is all I have. Would anyone else like to provide testimony? You can click the react icon and then click raise hand or press *6 to unmute your, or *9 to raise your hand and *6. Oh, all right. Let's hear from Jeremy Del Moro. Can you unmute yourself, Jeremy? There you go.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Del Morel. I'm at 6207 Stardust Lane. Thank you for having this meeting and having this discussion. I'm actually a new resident coming from Washington, D.C. I've been here just over a year. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And part of the reason we moved to Bethesda was to be able to have access to a safe environment for our children. And I think generally you're hearing from a lot of the residents that it is generally safe. And I do agree. I mean, that's part of the reason we came. But we can't deny that the world has changed. Today, especially in this neighborhood, an affluent neighborhood that heavily relies on Uber, it relies on Uber Eats, it relies on Amazon delivery, every other delivery service. And these people that work in this field, they are paid per delivery, meaning that their objective is to get to every spot as quickly as possible to get as many packages out or as much food delivered, including groceries, as quickly as possible. And you know, there was a company that tried this in the 80s, and it was called Domino's, right? It was 30 minutes or your pizza was free. And they had to quit that because what was happening is major car accidents were happening. And I'm seeing that myself when I'm out with my children. It's not safe for me to be walking on the street because I don't know who's coming up that hill. And I can't just allow my son to not have a safe area for him to walk where I know that if he's walking alone, I don't have to worry about this guy or woman that is trying to deliver some food as quickly as possible. Um, I myself am a biker as well. I know Goldsboro is very dangerous. In fact, I've been on Goldsboro where people refuse to stop, and my access to my home is crossing the bridge that's at Goldsboro, right at the bottom of Redwing. So for me and my children to be able to get to the parks, to get to things on that side of the road, the safest bet would be for me to use a sidewalk, and then hopefully down the road another sidewalk is added where we can get across the bridge. Um, the other arguments I'm hearing about, well, we're going to build it, we're going to build it and nothing else will come. Well, we have to start somewhere. We have to make these minor changes. And, yeah, it may take a long time to make the grand plan happen. But if we don't start somewhere, we're going to go nowhere. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, next we'll hear from Michelle Fischella.
And hi, thank you for, before was my wife who spoke, and we live together on 6308 Redwing Road. I just want to mention the fact that safety is a primary concern for everyone and should be a primary concern for every neighborhood, not just affluent neighborhoods, where people can be very vocal and can be expressing their opinion in salvaguard of their own kids. If there is a policy, there is a reason for that policy. And my understanding is the policy the county has is that there needs to be taken into consideration and weighted a crash history. And so we don't want any crash to happen here. We want even less crash to happen when they're clearly documented. And so I would be surprised that a neighborhood with 30 years of no crashes has priority over other neighborhoods where, in fact, the history is there. And with this, I quit.
All right, thank you. And now Richard Hoy had pre-registered to testify and he has now arrived. So Mr. Hoy, would you like to unmute yourself?
Okay, thank you. I
Thank you.
apologize for being late. I'm Richard Hoy. I live in Bethesda. I'm retired from the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Services, 25-year career. My last station assignment for about 8 years in length was the Glen Echo Fire Station, Station 11 on Massachusetts Avenue. That station is first due over the area encompassing Redwing Road. I speak from experience as a traffic violence survivor being hit by motor vehicles while riding a bicycle, and as well as a firefighter and rescuer with decades of experience firsthand with the consequences of crashes of all types, and in the Glen Echo area. I'm in support of the sidewalk on this street, and I would like to ensure that it is made appropriately and not conservatively. The goal of this project should be to maximize the impact of the sidewalk. In other words, make it the best sidewalk your designers can create, and not one to minimize its width, its distance from the street, and other factors. That it should be made to not only meet but exceed the standard treatments for sidewalks. I have been on many calls as a firefighter involving pedestrian crashes in the Glen Echo area. The need for the sidewalks has probably already been defined well. We need safe places for the variety of people in our community to walk and safely and to access destinations in their community, like public schools. So this is a step in the right direction, and the latent demand for sidewalks, I think, is something that goes unrecognized. We talk about sidewalks, but there is a great demand for walking, and it is not seen because it's not safe. So this sidewalk is more important than may seem at first glance, and I think the place to start with pedestrian safety is right in front of us, and not trying to make. I caution you to avoid any rationale that makes the perfect or the good and the perfect the enemy of the good. We need the best sidewalk we can get, and regardless of where there may be other needs, there's a need here. So thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, that's all I have. Would anyone else like to, oh, let's hear from Sagdu. I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Kostel.
Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Sadek Koshto. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I'm the neighbor at 6215 Stardust Lane at the intersection of Stardust and Redwing Road. I'm in support of adding sidewalks to every street in the county for many reasons. I think the first focus is on safety because from the engineering standpoint, we prefer not to have a roadway shared with pedestrian and moving vehicles. So ideally, whenever a road is designed, the designers intend to separate the pedestrian or cyclist from the vehicular traffic. So here is not the exception. So unfortunately, when this neighborhood was developed in 1950s and many other neighborhoods in Bethesda area, for some reason, maybe to reduce the cost of the development at the time of the subdivision, the sidewalks were not considered or were not mandated for the developers to add or to be built at the time of construction. So basically, wherever we're lacking the sidewalks, it's an
Excuse me, sir.
overview.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just please make sure you're keeping your comment focus on the project.
Correct.
Your comments are straying towards a kind of a global justification for
Yeah,
sidewalks.
but the reason that I'm saying is this is wherever that we see an opportunity to add the sidewalk, we have to support it because at the end of the day, it provides safety and walkability to all the neighborhoods. And for the Redwing Road in particular, the similar like the Stardust that we have sidewalks on each side of the street, we should have the similar situation for the Redwing Road as it has the 40 feet right of way, the same as Stardust. So on the west side or east side, wherever deemed possible. So I guess per the county's engineer, they deemed necessary, they deemed possible to put it on the west side. I think we need to add it. And the only thing that is, I think, missing or create confusion for some people who are against this sidewalk addition, sidewalk installation on Redwing is that they didn't see how the county is going to extend the sidewalk to the Goldsboro Road, to the other side of the Goldsboro Road, to the Woodacre neighborhood. So that is the missing part that people couldn't connect and realize how the county is expanding or constructing the sidewalk to the neighborhood. So and lastly, I think the environmental impact is building a sidewalk is not against the environment, even though that we need to cut a few trees. But I think the intent is to plant the trees in the right location, and then encourage people to walk on the sidewalk and use less vehicles for their I would say short distances. So I guess overall it's kind of encouraging or in supporting of the environmental effort. So overall, I think adding the sidewalk is adding benefit for all the neighbors in our neighborhood.
All right. Thank you, Sagda. Would anyone else like to testify? Oh, Kathleen McBride.
Hi, my daughter is at she's at C2, but she's reminding me that she wants to make sure that all of her friends, she says, walk down our road and they cross over coming home from Whitman whenever they want to walk home from Whitman, because there's no way for the kids. It's super close to the Woodacres neighborhood, but all those kids who go to high school at Whitman, the only way for them to walk to their houses is through our neighborhood. And the most dangerous part of the walk, Goldsboro Road, but the other most dangerous part is going down the hill, down Redwing Road. So she just wanted to make sure that we remember that a lot of teenagers are walking after school. And so it's not just people who live here at Redwing, but it's all the kids who live in the Woodacres neighborhood. Whenever they want to walk home from Whitman, they come through our neighborhood. So that's the statement from the Whitman kids.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thanks.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to share oral testimony before we move to the question and answer session? Going once? Okay, thank you all for your testimony, and seeing that everyone who wishes and wished to speak has had an opportunity to do so, this concludes the oral testimony portion of the public hearing. We will now
We just got a
we'll give
hand.
Mr. Careby an opportunity to
Yeah.
catch us before we transition. So
Forgive me. No, I had a question. So I was just trying to jump to the front of the line in the question and answer session. Forgive me.
okay, well, thank you.
I'll unmute you in a second.
So yes, so thank you for teeing that up for us, Robert. We will now move to the question and answer session, and please click the react icon and then raise hand to raise your hand, or press *9 on your telephone keypad if you wish to ask a question. And of course, you may also type your question into the chat box. If we run out of time before we answer all the questions, we will answer your questions via email in the days to come. So, Ms. Main, you can go ahead and start queuing up folks to ask questions.
All right, Robert, we're ready for you.
Thank you. Yeah, my question is just that, in listening to the testimony, and I submitted written comments, so I didn't want to repeat them in oral testimony, but has the other side of the road been considered, as given that, by all accounts, folks who are opposed to this project are really, it sounds like, sort of opposed to it because it's on the wrong side of the road. So and that was the nature of my written comments. Has the other side of the road been considered, and is it too late to move the project to the east side?
Would you like me to answer that one, Lori?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Yeah, in general, when we are requested of a sidewalk on a road, our field investigations check out constructability, such as if there's utilities in the way, if it's the grade is too high, will we need retaining walls, utilities, fences. We consider that. So on Red Wing, the west side was more constructible. So that was evaluated for this project.
Yeah, the fields during the field investigations, they do investigate both sides, and the right-of-way construction impacts report that you have for that's online for the west side comes with both sides to begin with, and then the inspector gives us a suggestion of which side is more constructible. So the west side was more constructible. And it also connected to existing sidewalk that's already on Redwing. I do have a question in the chat. What is the easement impediment for building on the east side? Well, both sides have the same right of way, basically. It's 50-foot available right of way. The road, I believe, was 24 feet wide or 20. It's 26 feet wide. So then you have 24 feet left, which means there's 12 feet of available right of way on both sides of the road. Less constructible means, Bob, do you want to explain what
Oh,
constructible?
sure. Your perfect job site is going to be flat, straight, clear of any trees, utilities, bushes, and such. Um, so in this on this project, we do have trees, and we do have utilities, but we chose the west side because it was less impactful, more constructible. Um, does that answer the
Yeah,
question, or you want more?
that sounds perfect. That's perfect.
Mhm.
Um, okay, Robert Kirby has a question.
Sorry, and thank you for those answers. I was just gonna sort of follow on that one of my prior questions, which was just, is it too late to move it to the other side? I mean, is
It's not too late. I mean, if we have the miracle of 100% consensus on the east side, we can consider it more expeditiously. But um, because there were some folks who had some questions on the west side, we are going with the public hearing just to make sure everybody is informed. Uh, but if there's that 100% support on the east side, that can be that can be done. That could be built um, without a public hearing. Does that help answer your question, Robert?
Well, we would also, so we proposed the west side. In order to put it on the east side, we'd have to start over. We'd have to propose it and go through our
Concept
process,
plans.
yeah, we'd have to start all over, basically. So, which, if everybody on the east side is open and desirable of having and supportive of having sidewalk installed there, then, we could do that, uh, but I don't think the impacts were very different on either side. And the west side does connect to existing sidewalks, so less homes are impacted. Okay, let's hear from Kathleen McBride.
Hi, I was just wondering, so the people whose trees are impacted, is there any reason that we cannot just go around their trees? I've seen this on numerous sidewalks in Bethesda where they just go around the tree. Is there any reason why we couldn't do that? And then those people would not have to lose their trees, and then they might no longer be opposed to the sidewalk.
There are opportunities. There are construction techniques that we can save trees. We work very closely with our arborists. So we get feedback in regard to our concept plan and where the trees are. One thing that just in general with trees is its canopy, how far the branches go out is pretty close to their tree root zone. So we try to minimize impact to the tree root zone because it could kill the tree. Um, so we work very closely with our arborists to see which trees we can keep, which ones can survive if we're kind of close to the tree roots. So we do have some techniques to do it. There's also some special permeable asphalt that might work. But again, before we do any of these, we do work with our arborists, make sure that that is a good plan.
Oh no, of course. But if somebody's like, I understand people not wanting to lose their trees, and so if they would no longer be opposed to the sidewalk because they got to keep their tree, that seems like a win for everyone.
Oh yeah, we love trees, and so we actually do try to keep them. It's very beneficial for the walking public. So we do try, and our concept plan is what we tried to propose at the beginning. During construction, we will get even closer to more detail with the resident and the arborist there are other if there are other options.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a question from Michelle Fischella.
Oh, yes, thank you. I just wanted to clarify because I think I heard that someone saying that there are existing sidewalk or partial sidewalk on the west side. There are the same extent of existing sidewalk on the east side. And so to me, the statement that one side has less constructability, honestly, doesn't say much. I don't
Sir,
know what.
I'm sorry, this is question and answer, please. So if you have a
Yeah,
question, you have
again,
to
So I
ask.
would like to. I would.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would like to ask.
We're not here to debate
I
and to
ask a question.
discuss the other comments.
I would like to ask a question.
Okay, please do.
Is it very efficient to have a sidewalk that stops a Redwing Court, restart a Redwing Court, and then require crossing the street at the intersection with the state road?
I'll give a partial answer to this. I saw an email recently that State Highway actually has an approved well not, they're approved to do a study along Goldsboro from Gold Leaf to River Road. So I know that the state is also looking into putting sidewalk along Goldsboro. So our project would just be perfect to connect in the future if and when they do build. Um,
Can I jump in? This is Joe Mogus, Chief of Division of Transportation Engineering. To that question, I would say it is much more logical to expand an existing pedestrian network than to wait for segments to materialize and then fill in the gaps, right? So I would much rather have a sidewalk expand logically outward than have disparate segments of sidewalk where pedestrians are just trying to meet the next segment of facility in the roadway.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Does any, so we do have a question in the chat. And Ninja says, from the safety perspective, it is much more important to have a sidewalk on Goldsboro. Why is the Redwing Road sidewalk being prioritized over Goldsboro Road?
Let me jump in again. So Mr. Robinson rightly mentioned that this particular proposal is related to the safety walk that we conducted a few months ago. And, you know, Maryland 614 Goldsboro Road is a state highway roadway. State Highway actually has currently a drainage project along the entire corridor. So there is work ongoing over there. As part of that walk, as Mr. Robinson mentioned, we did find ourselves on Redwing Road to our original destination point on Redwing Court. And it was mentioned that there was no pedestrian facility on Redwing Road. We found ourselves walking on Redwing Road and there were safety concerns, and we actually did almost have an incident on Redwing Road. There was a request for sidewalk on Redwing Road, and that's how we found ourselves in this particular location. So Redwing Road is a county facility, and that is where Montgomery County's role comes into the fray. So that is why we're proposing a sidewalk on our right of way. It is outside of our, I should say, realm or domain to insist on sidewalk on state roadway without their um, uh, concurrence, especially considering that they have an ongoing project. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Does anybody else have any questions?
All right, I'll ask again, as we seem to be near our landing point. Does anyone else have any questions that they'd like to ask on this project?
Oh, we do. We have a question from a ninja.
Thanks again. I will, in fact, ask the same question that was asked a little while back because I didn't hear a clear answer. In choosing between a sidewalk on the west side and an east side, with the west side, the sidewalk will have to cross the road into Redwing Court, whereas the sidewalk on the east side can be a continuous one. I didn't hear a clear answer as to why the west side would be chosen when it has the hazard of crossing a road as well in between. Thank you.
So I'm going to have to, well, actually, our field supervisor can answer that. Juan, did you want to speak to that?
Well, I was going to say, and somebody else had a question about an impediment on the east side, and the only construction choke point that I saw on the east side was down towards the bottom of the hill. I believe the property is 6203, where they have a fence and then there's a utility pole where we would have to curb the sidewalk behind the utility pole. We would get close to the fence, and based on the MC Atlas right-of-way lines, it looks like there is actually less right-of-way on the east side versus the west side. So we would be encroaching upon that private property line by going behind that utility pole, and there's also a big private tree behind that fence. So impacts like that, when we see an impediment like that, if we can get away from that and we don't see anything like that on the west side, I think that's why I and the inspector, we kind of threw it on the west side, even though, yes, you do have an extra crossing at the court, but that construction choke point down there at the bottom of the hill was kind of one of the reasons why we chose the west side as well.
Thank you, Juan.
Hey, does anyone
Well,
else
then
have
we
any
have a,
questions?
oh, nope, no more questions.
All right, then. Seeing that all questions have been answered, we
Oh,
will
we
now.
just got one more. Michelle Fasella.
Yeah, actually, there was a question that is there was mentioned before that the easement is on 6 feet on either side of Redwing Road, and now it was said instead that there is a choke point at the bottom of Redwing Road because a fence. And I was wondering if a fence is encroaching the easement, so it was not permitted, or it was permitted by the county and therefore limiting the easement.
We're just going by the like I said, the aerial view right-of-way lines that we have on the Atlas. It kind of shows there being less right-of-way on the east side versus the west side. It's kind of like a skew where there seems to be a bigger right-of-way. It's not like a perfectly even cut down the middle of the street where you have 24 from the center on one side, 24 on the center on the other side. It seemed like the right-of-way is shifted more towards the west side, which would give us less room to work with going behind the pole. Now, whether the fence is directly on the right-of-way line or not, I don't know. Like I said, it's something, you'd have to get a permit through DPS to put a fence in. Whether they did that or not, I have no idea. But just when I'm looking at that and I have more room to work with to make adjustments on the west side, that's kind of why we were favoring the west side.
Are there any other questions for this project? Well, thank you to all of you who have provided comments and asked questions. Seeing that all the questions have been answered, we will now conclude this hearing. As we mentioned earlier, we will keep the public record open for 4 weeks. Comments and written testimony are due by Wednesday, March 11th at 5 p.m. Additional written testimony and comments may be submitted by email and must be received or postmarked by the close of this hearing record. Submissions should be sent via the online comment form. A link and QR code are provided on your screen, or via email to Lori Main at lori.main@montgomerycountymd.gov. Lori's contact information and the link and QR code to the comment form on the Sidewalk Program's website are also posted on your screen. So thank you so very much for joining us this evening. This public hearing is now concluded.